Team, welcome to Additional Sheet. In this video we will go through Flutter Top 50 multiple choice questions and answers. Let's start our video. What is Flutter? Option A, a programming language. Option B, a web development framework. Option C, a mobile app SDK. Option D, a database management system. The correct answer is option C, a mobile app SDK. Which language is primarily used for Flutter development? Option A, Java. Option B, Swift. Option C, Dart. Option D, Kotlin. The correct answer is option C, Dart. What is a widget in Flutter? Option A, a graphical user interface element. Option B, a database management tool. Option C, a web development framework. Option D, a cloud service. The correct answer is option A, a graphical user interface element. What is the purpose of the pubspec YAML file in Flutter projects? Option A, it contains app configurations. Option B, it manages project dependencies. Option C, it defines UI layouts. Option D, it stores user authentication data. The correct answer is option B, it manages project dependencies. Which command is used to run a Flutter app on an emulator or physical device? Option A, Flutter Start. Option B, Flutter Run. Option C, Flutter Go. Option D, Flutter Launch. The correct answer is option B, Flutter Run. What is the purpose of the setState method in Flutter? Option A, to define the app state. Option B, to update the UI in response to data changes. Option C, to perform asynchronous operations. Option D, to handle user authentication. The correct answer is option B, to update the UI in response to data changes. Which widget is used for creating a scrollable list of widgets in Flutter? Option A, Grid View. Option B, List View. Option C, Stack. Option D, Column. The correct answer is option B, List View. What is the purpose of the build context in Flutter? Option A, it defines the app's context. Option B, it manages UI layout. Option C, it represents the location of a widget in the widget tree. Option D, it handles user input events. The correct answer is option C, it represents the location of a widget in the widget tree. Which package is commonly used for state management in Flutter? Option A, HTTP. Option B, Provider. Option C, Flutter Block. Option D, Shared Preferences. The correct answer is option B, Provider. What does the hot reload feature in Flutter do? Option A, it recompiles the entire app. Option B, it updates the app's dependencies. Option C, it restarts the app from scratch. Option D, it updates the running app with new code changes. The correct answer is option D, it updates the running app with new code changes. What is the Flutter widget tree? Option A, a graphical representation of Flutter developers. Option B, a hierarchy of widgets representing the structure of the UI. Option C, a data structure used for network requests. Option D, a navigation system in Flutter apps. The correct answer is option B, a hierarchy of widgets representing the structure of the UI. Which Flutter command is used to create a new Flutter project? Option A, Flutter New. Option B, Flutter Generate. Option C, Flutter Create. Option D, Flutter Start. The correct answer is option C, Flutter Create. What is the purpose of the Flutter Doctor command? Option A, to diagnose and fix issues in a Flutter project. Option B, to generate documentation for Flutter code. Option C, to run automated tests for a Flutter app. Option D, to check the weather forecast for the day. The correct answer is option A, to diagnose and fix issues in a Flutter project. Which widget is used for displaying an image in Flutter? Option A, Image widget. Option B, Image view. Option C, Picture widget. Option D, Image. The correct answer is option D, Image. What is the purpose of the Scaffold widget in Flutter? Option A, to create a drawer menu. Option B, to define the app's color scheme. Option C, to implement the app's structure and layout. Option D, to manage user authentication. The correct answer is option C, to implement the app's structure and layout. Which Flutter widget is used for handling user input? Option A, Text field. Option B, Text handler. Option C, Input field. Option D, User input. The correct answer is option A, Text field. What is the purpose of the Gesture Detector widget in Flutter? Option A, to detect gestures on the device screen. Option B, to manage app navigation. Option C, to define the app's color palette. Option D, to handle device orientation changes. The correct answer is option A, to detect gestures on the device screen. How can you handle navigation between screens in a Flutter app? Option A, by using the Navigate to function. Option B, by configuring routes in the main, Dart file. Option C, navigation is automatically handled by Flutter. Option D, by using the Start Screen method. The correct answer is option B, by configuring routes in the main, Dart file. Which package is commonly used for HTTP requests in Flutter? Option A, HTTP requests. Option B, Flutter HTTP. Option C, HTTP client. Option D, HTTP. The correct answer is option D, HTTP. What is the purpose of the Future Builder widget in Flutter? Option A, to build future UI layouts. Option B, to handle asynchronous operations and update the UI. Option C, to manage app navigation. Option D, to create a splash screen. The correct answer is option B, to handle asynchronous operations and update the UI. What is the primary purpose of the build context in Flutter? Option A, it defines the app's context. Option B, it manages UI layout. Option C, it represents the location of a widget in the widget tree. Option D, it handles user input events. The correct answer is option C, it represents the location of a widget in the widget tree. Which widget is used to create a row of equally spaced items in Flutter? Option A, column. Option B, row. Option C, grid view. Option D, stack. The correct answer is option B, row. What is the purpose of the inkwell widget in Flutter? Option A, to draw ink on the screen. Option B, to create a well of colors. Option C, to handle tap gestures and provide visual feedback. Option D, to manage app themes. The correct answer is option C, to handle tap gestures and provide visual feedback. How can you perform navigation in Flutter without using the Navigator widget? Option A, by using the Navigator push method. Option B, by using the page root class. Option C, navigation always requires the Navigator widget. Option D, by using the build context directly. The correct answer is option C, navigation always requires the Navigator widget. Which package is commonly used for state management in Flutter for larger applications? Option A, provider. Option B, shared preferences. Option C, SQFlight. Option D, Flutter block. The correct answer is option D, Flutter block. What is the purpose of the Flutter Inspector in Flutter Development Tools? Option A, to inspect the state of the device. Option B, to visualize and explore the widget tree. Option C, to perform automated testing. Option D, to manage app dependencies. The correct answer is option B, to visualize and explore the widget tree. Which method is called when a stateful widget is inserted into the widget tree for the first time? Option A, init state. Option B, build. Option C, create state. Option D, dispose. The correct answer is option A, init state. What is the purpose of the indexed stack widget in Flutter? Option A, to stack widgets on top of each other. Option B, to manage an indexed collection of widgets. Option C, to create an index list of items. Option D, to handle index-based navigation. The correct answer is option B, to manage an indexed collection of widgets. How can you use custom fonts in a Flutter app? Option A, by embedding fonts directly in the Dart code. Option B, by configuring fonts in the pubspec YAML file. Option C, fonts are automatically handled by Flutter. Option D, by using platform-specific font APIs. The correct answer is option B, by configuring fonts in the pubspec YAML file. What is the purpose of the hero widget in Flutter? Option A, to create animated hero characters in the app. Option B, to manage app navigation transitions. Option C, to define the app's color scheme. Option D, to create a splash screen. The correct answer is option B, to manage app navigation transitions. What is the purpose of the async and await keywords in Dart Flutter? Option A, to create asynchronous functions. Option B, to define widget properties. Option C, to handle routing in Flutter. Option D, to manage state in Flutter. The correct answer is option A, to create asynchronous functions. Which widget is used to create a modal bottom sheet in Flutter? Option A, modal sheet. Option B, bottom sheet. Option C, bottom modal. Option D, modal bottom. The correct answer is option B, bottom sheet. What is the purpose of the cross-axis alignment in a Flutter row or column widget? Option A, to define the layout direction. Option B, to align children along the cross-axis. Option C, to set the color of the axis. Option D, to manage animations. The correct answer is option B, to align children along the cross-axis. How can you add padding to a widget in Flutter? Option A, by using the padding widget. Option B, by wrapping the widget with padding class. Option C, by using the padding property. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is option B, by wrapping the widget with padding class. What is the purpose of the inherited widget in Flutter? Option A, to manage global app state. Option B, to define app colors. Option C, to create animations. Option D, to handle HTTP requests. The correct answer is option A, to manage global app state. How can you perform conditional rendering in Flutter? Option A, by using the if statement. Option B, by using the ternary operator. Option C, by using the visibility widget. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is option D, all of the above. Which Flutter package is commonly used for navigation management and route generation? Option A, router navigation. Option B, Flutter routes. Option C, navigator. Option D, auto route. The correct answer is option D, auto route. What is the purpose of the list view, builder constructor in Flutter? Option A, to create a static list of items. Option B, to create a scrollable list with lazy loading. Option C, to define a list of items at compile time. Option D, to manage list animations. The correct answer is option B, to create a scrollable list with lazy loading. How can you handle user gestures like dragging and dropping in Flutter? Option A, by using the gesture detector widget. Option B, by implementing custom gesture handling logic. Option C, by using the draggable and drag target widgets. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is option D, all of the above. What is the purpose of the Flutter packages get command? Option A, to install Flutter itself. Option B, to update Flutter to the latest version. Option C, to get the dependencies specified in the pubspec, YAML file. Option D, to generate Flutter documentation. The correct answer is option C, to get the dependencies specified in the pubspec, YAML file. What is the purpose of the clip or rect widget in Flutter? Option A, to create rectangular clips in a widget. Option B, to round the corners of a widget. Option C, to define a region for touch gestures. Option D, to manage app animations. The correct answer is option B, to round the corners of a widget. How can you efficiently manage app state in a Flutter application? Option A, by using the setState method. Option B, by using global variables. Option C, by using state management packages like Provider or Riverpod. Option D, state management is not necessary in Flutter. The correct answer is option C, by using state management packages like Provider or Riverpod. What is the purpose of the animated container widget in Flutter? Option A, to create animated containers with changing dimensions. Option B, to manage app navigation. Option C, to define app themes. Option D, to handle user authentication. The correct answer is option A, to create animated containers with changing dimensions. Which method is called when a stateful widget is removed from the widget tree? Option A, dispose. Option B, deactivate. Option C, dispose state. Option D, unremove. The correct answer is option A, dispose. What is the purpose of the flexible widget in a Flutter row or column? Option A, to define flexible layouts. Option B, to handle responsive design. Option C, to create a scrollable list. Option D, to manage device orientation changes. The correct answer is option A, to define flexible layouts. How can you handle user taps on a widget in Flutter? Option A, by using the gesture detector widget. Option B, by wrapping the widget with tap widget. Option C, taps are automatically handled by Flutter. Option D, by using the onTap property. The correct answer is option A, by using the gesture detector widget. What is the purpose of the spacer widget in a Flutter row or column? Option A, to add spacing between widgets. Option B, to create an empty space. Option C, to manage app animations. Option D, to define a splash screen. The correct answer is option B, to create an empty space. How can you handle orientation changes in a Flutter app? Option A, by using the Orientation Builder widget. Option B, by manually adjusting widget dimensions. Option C, orientation changes are automatically handled by Flutter. Option D, by using the onOrientation change callback. The correct answer is option A, by using the Orientation Builder widget. Which Dart feature is used for managing asynchronous operations in Flutter? Option A, futures. Option B, streams. Option C, async await. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is option D, all of the above. What is the purpose of the single child scroll view widget in Flutter? Option A, to create a scrollable view for a single child. Option B, to handle single gestures on a widget. Option C, to define a single child layout. Option D, to manage single page applications. The correct answer is option A, to create a scrollable view for a single child. Thank you. Please visit Additional Sheet website.